Core TV News Live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then News. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.
It's the 51st independence anniversary over their country, Nigeria. And today, the major sectors of our economy are in focus. We've spoken about education. We just finished with politics. And right about now, it's time to put the judiciary on the focus. And I was speaking earlier with Nifemi that there are so many things that have happened this year. You spoke about the Ekiti election and how that has not been reserved till now. When I mean unreserved, the taking to court of the corruption allegation against the governor-elect, and we saw what has played out at the court, where the judges were beaten up, where some others who were in attendance were beaten up. And of course, the tribunal that is going on in Osun State, that is also part of it. And I think part of it is the issue of corruption. There's so many monies that are not accounted for, and what's exactly the judiciary is doing, we need to know. And that is why we have Bosun Oshifowora in the studio this morning. Is a legal practitioner and a public affairs analyst. It's good to have you around.
Thank you very much.
As well as the husband of one wife.
Okay, yeah, it's that the husband of one wife.
It's all right, Bosun. Let's start from the idea that elections in recent times in our in our national history has been won in courts rather than at the polls. You see a situation whereby an election finishes, another person is announced as the winner, then after 2-3 years, the court comes up with another name. Is that a plus or minus actually for the Nigerian judiciary?
Well, I would say happy independence first.
Oh, my bad. We should have said.
All right. The court is the last hope of the common man. And where things go awry, it is normal to resort to court. It is civil to resort to court. And the decision of the court should hold sway under any circumstance. Okay. We all know how elections are in third world countries. And it is not an exclusive preserve of Nigeria alone. We just seem to have more of such, ballot stuffing, all kinds of shenanigans, going on and everything. At the end of the day, where a party who lost feels aggrieved and it goes to court, and the court looks at the evidence available before it and declares the other person winner, then it's normal. Because, the court is the final place where the common man goes. So that we've had series of things, elections being overturned by the court, it's fair and it's good for the polity.
If you say that the court is the last hope of the common man, do you think the general populace of Nigeria still believes in that saying? Because if we believe, don't you feel it's the unbelief in our judicial system that makes people want to go to court and take judgments by their own hands? And if you say it's a good step in the right direction, why does the court have to wait for like 3 years in the case of Osun gubernatorial election that yielded Rauf Aregbesola?
Okay. Yeah, it's a very simple case. One, the judiciary in Nigeria, like every other sector, we don't have enough personnel. And that accounts for the delay in the way cases turn out. Okay. That has been a major problem. I don't know if you've talked about health, but we don't have enough doctors, we don't have enough this, we don't have enough that. As an aside, I was watching a program on one of these internet satellite stations like 2 days ago, and Clinton, the daughter, Chelsea, she said in the US that you have 240 doctors per every 100,000 persons. But they were comparing Liberia, and they said in Liberia you have less than one doctor for every 100,000. So it's a problem that is peculiar to this part of the world. We don't have enough judges. We don't have enough hands. So, I mean, you have a judge that is doing both commercial, criminal, all kinds of cases, and you stuff the same judge with all kinds of evidence and all kinds of things and find. So in some cases, the lawyers too are culpable. You know, you look at, okay, you want to file this just to delay the process, and the same judge will sit on the case. Then the same judge is transferred, put on an electoral tribunal. His cases is not going to tell the other, people that, don't worry, I'm on election tribunal, go and say that the cases are still going on. Now, one judge, one brain, husband of one wife, and at the end of the day, he's crowded. Fine, people still go to court regardless of the delay. Because, I mean, you slap me now, I'm not going to slap you back. It might result in something else. People still have faith in the court. But the problem is just the delay, which is occasioned by simply inadequate personnel.
Now, apart from the human resources that you made mention of, what about the integrity of the personnel in the judiciary? Because the CJN, at the beginning of this new legal year, actually came out to say some people in the judiciary are outrightly corrupt. Clerks, secretaries,
I can tell you confidently,
lawyers, judges.
I can tell you confidently that the Nigerian judiciary has a quantum of people with impeccable character. But I mean, amongst every 12, there will be a Judas. So you cannot, where you have people, there will be one or two eggs that are rotten. Okay. So there's nothing you can do about that. In the US, they have, even in other climes, in the UK, they have disciplinary committees. Maybe they don't bring it to the fore like we do here, but it happens everywhere. But I can tell you confidently that the CJN came out to say that does not mean everybody is corrupt. If they say one bad apple will spoil the fruit. So it's a very simple case.
Well, in a situation where over half of Nigerian inmates in Nigerian prisons are waiting trial, and we have many other corruption, challenges here and there. How corrupt is the Nigerian judiciary?
That people are in prison is not the fault of the judge. I just explained the routine of a judge to you. Now, we don't have enough courts. Now, when I say court, I mean the judges, the magistrates, and judicial officers. We don't have enough courts for the number of cases that come. So, fine, you can say justice delayed is justice denied, fine, but for the case of corruption, I think basically our focus should really be the independence of the judiciary. Okay. The problem with the judiciary in this country is that it's not overtly independent. The budget of the judiciary is strictly controlled by the executive, even scrutinized. Sometimes, depending, it's a case of he who pays the piper calls the tune. Now, look at the case in Port Harcourt. The governor appointed somebody. The NJC refused to, approve of his appointment. Now then they want to impose someone else. It's because the executive has his hands very much on the neck of the judiciary. So if we have an independent judiciary, then, you wouldn't have some of these things. Why would somebody, a governor-elect, come and, quote and unquote, slap a judge? He said he didn't slap, harass the judge. The judge, the position of a judge is an elevated position. That's why they are called lords. They have the power of life and death. Now, you don't go and harass such a person. Now, but you see, the problem is that they're not adequately protected. We come back to the independence of the judiciary.
What relationship should exist, ideally, between the judiciary and the executive?
A coordinate relationship. But they should have a separate budget. The problem is always the budget. If you feed me, I'm subject to you. Whichever way, call it any name. It is almost a master-servant relationship. If you determine where I will stay, what I will do, how I will move, the perks of my office, come on. Then I'll tell you that I can't lord anything over you like that. No matter how much I try. That's why you see a governor-elect trying to stifle a judge.
Corruption has been said to be the bane of development in our dear country, Nigeria. And if we're talking about looking to the judiciary for hope, for the silver lining at the end of the tunnel. What comes for Nigeria? Because we talk about so many monies going missing in Nigeria. We talk monies that we can't even make account of. You've not forgotten the 20 billion naira, and still it looks like nothing comes out of it. But what plays itself out is there was a former governor in this country who was freed by the court as not being guilty of corruption and was found guilty outside Nigeria. What do you say
This child of a
of that?
160 count charge in Nigeria.
In Nigeria.
Found guilty outside in Britain.
It was the evidence available before the court at that point in time. I'm not trying to hold forth for the judiciary. Fine, we have 1 or 2 cases that have gone by. But really, the court decides based on evidence, not on sentiment. You can think, okay, this man has stolen money. Now present your evidence, nothing. I mean, we saw a recent case, I think the Speaker of Lagos State. When the prosecution came, the thing was flat. At the end of the day, some people say, oh, the man was corrupt. But the evidence they presented was not enough to convict him. So will I say, okay, because I perceive that, the judge perceives that, Difemi is corrupt. No evidence, but people have said it. Let's vox populi, vox dei. The voice of the people is the voice of God. Let's crucify him based on perception. That will be worse.
Those
than
faults
what
now,
we have.
who is responsible for bringing facts
The prosecution,
before the court?
the state.
Are you indicting the legal practitioners in Nigeria?
No. It's not the legal practitioner. It's the state that prosecutes. You know, in every criminal matter, it's the government that will get the necessary facts. The state is in charge of it. The prosecution is an arm of the state. Now, so like the police or like the EFCC and all these organizations. But the state is in charge of them. In fact, any criminal case is always state versus the culprit. All right. And you see, the way it works is that in every crime, you are innocent until proven guilty. So if the evidence is not enough to prove your guilt, then nobody is going to convict you based on the fact that you don't look too handsome like me. So it's like that. So the judiciary in Nigeria, they are trying. They are overworked, they are overstretched, they are working, they bring things out of nothing. So I campaign strongly for a free judiciary, independence of the judiciary. Let the court, let the CJN be in charge of things. They have the NJC. Let them handle their matters. Let them not be subject to the precedent. There are cases where, I mean, right from the beginning, I mean, we all read, maybe we were young enough, but we know the case of when Chief Obafemi Awolowo was tried and the judge said that his hands are tied. I mean, he said that, he had to say that. So we've had, the judiciary has been stifled from the beginning, from way before the 54 years that was said.
If you're talking about lack of personnel in the judiciary, what exactly are you talking about? Is it that we don't have a sufficient number of graduates every year to come into, because I know there are levels before you get to the position of a judge and all of that, but it looks like lawyers are even scarce. Because if they're not scarce, for you to pay one becomes a heavy burden on you. An ordinary man cannot afford a lawyer.
No. You can afford a lawyer. Even where you can't afford. I know every state, I know about the Lagos state. You can always approach. If you go to the Ministry of Justice, they will handle your case or your cases. They even we as lawyers.
Lawyer would.
Pardon?
The same way a paid lawyer would.
Myself, I'm a private. And I do pro bono cases. You don't want to come to me now and say you want to do affidavit, you want to do even serious cases now. And I'll say go bring money. But
if it's that easy, how come we have so many people not being served justice and they're still awaiting trial?
Awaiting trial is not a question of payment. It's a systemic problem. I just told you that a judge has 1,001 cases before him. Now, what is he going to do? Kill himself? He has his own family, he has his own life. All right. Now, he's stretched beyond limit. And there's nothing he could do. Sometimes a judge can adjourn a case 3-4 months. Unfortunately, the guy will have to be in the cell or in the prison. But there's nothing the judge can do. He tells you to come tomorrow and you hear that the judge is dead because he was working.
Okay, are you saying that we are hopeless and helpless as regards delaying justice and delay and access to justice in Nigeria?
We're not. You see, the problem is is larger than meets the eye. We need enough personnel. We need enough hands. We need enough courts. All right. There, if you go abroad, courts are now specialized. But here you have almost all. In Lagos State, for example, you have criminal division at the High Court. You have civil division. You have lands and all that. But at the end of the day, you still find out that a judge who is in the civil division, there's still some cases before him. Now you have special court. The same judge will do divorce. The same judge will do a commercial case. The same judge, and he's stuffed with all kinds of evidences. Now, he has to read. He has to sift. And he's not going to do that in a hurry because he wants to let go of your case. If he does that, the same you will come back and say, he did scrutinize my work very well. Okay. The judges are corrupt.
We have to let you go that
all
way.
Right,
is it possible that we can have a judiciary in Nigeria where the personnel there are not politically affiliated? Because that's one of the challenges that we're having in Ekiti now, where we have a party outrightly alleging that the chief judge in that particular part of the country has a political affiliation, or rather partisan.
Yeah, well, that means you have to go to the constitution, because constitutionally the governor will nominate, then the NJC will, scrutinize, look at the person and approve of that appointment. I just told you about the case in Rivers. Now, so maybe we'll have to go back to our constitution. So it's a very simple case. The executive should not have hands in the nomination. You look at the legislative arm of government. They have a budget that comes from the executive. The executive is the coordinating arm of the government. But the legislators, they run their show. Let the NJC, let the judiciary run its own show. Let it be in charge of his appointment. Let it be in charge of his disciplinary matters. Then everything will be fine. But as long as the executive breathes down the neck of the judiciary, it will be very hard. They're trying, they're doing their best, but they're overstretched, and the influence is too much. So it's systemic. It goes to the root of the nation. You go back to the constitution, then we amend and put things in proper perspective.
All right, it's been a wonderful time having you on the show this morning, Bosun Shifora. Next time we'll call on you. I pray you oblige.
My pleasure. I definitely will.
And it just appears that every sector of the country is saying it is not our problem. I'm asking whose problem it is. Because if the did you just say spiritual? The professor came and said, no, teachers are not trained and retrained, and the politicians are not doing well. I think it's only the man who came as a political analyst, a politician himself, who says, but he himself did not even take up the blame. He went on saying that the ruling party is not doing well. And now the judiciary is saying if the executive can hands off the judiciary to be better. But the question is, we cannot continue with the blame game.
It's all right.
Someone has to take it.
We'll take a break now. When we come back, we'll be talking health on the show. Don't go away.
Rise, oh, come, Patriot. To serve our fatherland with love and strength and faith. The laborer, our heroes past, shall never be